Material condition is a central idea in GDT, and we've introduced the idea of maximum material condition before when we were talking about clearances and fits. So now we'll talk about it again. You might recall that maximum material condition means this part contains the maximum amount of material, and I like to think of it as putting the part on a scale. If it weighs the most, it's got maximum material. And that's how we can remember that it's the biggest shaft or the smallest hole that will weigh the most. There are a couple of other material conditions you occasionally run into. Least material condition is the opposite. It's got the least material, so it would have the smallest shaft or the biggest hole. Those would weigh the least on a scale. And then, regardless of feature size, that is the default. If you don't tell your reader what material condition you're using on a dimension, then the default is that tolerance applies regardless what size they make the feature. That's why this is the most expensive flavor. And we'll see this come up again when we talk about position tolerances. We often analyze mating parts to see what their maximum material condition will be, and Asme refers to MMC conditions as the so-called worst case, and what they mean by that is the closest fit, the least amount of tolerance, the least amount of clearance you could have. When we put geometric tolerances on our part, we're thinking about the actual mating envelope. So here's a beautiful, perfect-looking part. That's great. But when we actually make the part, it might be lumpy and not perpendicular in one thing and another. So we are going to put tolerances on our drawing that match the actual function of the part and that tell the reader what the actual mating envelope should be. So here's the mating envelope for the part with the pin, and here is the actual mating envelope for the part with the hole. And our goal is to put tolerances on our mating parts so that the actual mating envelope of the pin will always fit with the actual mating envelope of the hole. And turns out it's not that hard. I mean, it looks fancy and exotic, but it's actually not. We'll figure out a thing called virtual condition, and that will tell us whether these two parts will fit together or not. Now, another important term in GDT is a thing called feature of size. A feature of size is a feature, a place on your part that has opposed elements. Asme says it's cylindrical or spherical or two sets of opposed elements, and it's associated with a size dimension. So on this part, the thickness of the metal would be a feature of size, the hole would be a feature of size, the width of the slot would be a feature of size. A way to test this mentally is to think about, if you can measure the feature with a caliper, it's a feature of size. So you could put an inside caliper inside that hole or inside that slot, so they are features of size. You could put a caliper outside of this width, so that's a feature of size. You could put a caliper outside the thickness of this tab, so that's a feature of size. You cannot put two prongs of a caliper in this slot to measure the slot depth, so it is not a feature of size. If it is a feature of size, it always has a maximum material condition and a least material condition. If it's not a feature of size, it does not have an MMC or an LMC. You have to be careful. Just because you could fit a caliper around a thing does not make it a feature of size. For example, you might be holding this zigzag-shaped part and a caliper, and you might say, oh, well, I can put two jaws of the caliper over these legs. Yeah, you could, but it would not give you a straight, true, reliable measurement. Your caliper might be sitting kind of at an angle, kind of hard to tell. Only if the surfaces are opposite each other and you can get the jaws of a caliper on there squarely is it a feature of size. So let's think about some of these examples. Maybe this is a cylindrical part, maybe it's a hole. Item 1, that's a feature of size. This side-to-side thing, dimension 2, it is. 3 is. 4 is. How about 5? No, it's not, because you can't get a caliper in it or outside it. 6 and 7 are features of size, but 8 is not. 10 is a feature of size, but 9 is not, because those are not opposing elements. They're offset, and the only way to get a caliper on that is to kind of tip it, and that's not good. So 9 is not, but 10 is. And 11, the radius is not. I don't have an angle in here, but an angle is not either. So, at the heart of this Asme system and its sister, the ISO system, is the idea that we are moving towards using symbols and not words. And there are several reasons for that. One, it's a way to communicate ideas fast and in a small amount of space. It's got a consistent meaning, so it's not open to interpretation. And in this global economy, we have customers and clients and consultants who speak a variety of languages. And if we use symbols, then we are able to communicate directly with someone for whom English is not their native language, and vice versa. Whatever their language is, they can communicate with us. This old drawing, I'm not sure, this title block doesn't give the company. I think it might be Caterpillar, but I forget. This is an extreme example of a part where they are describing a lot of stuff that has to happen with a whole bunch of words in English. And almost every one of these notes could be replaced by a single feature control frame with a geometric control in it. Like, for instance, here, these holes must be parallel within 2 thousandths, blah, blah, blah. You could replace that with just a symbol. And here are the symbols. These are the symbols we use in our geometric tolerancing boxes, our feature control frames. And as we go through them this term, you'll notice that each symbol is a picture of the thing it's representing. The first one we'll come to is flatness, and this is a picture that looks kind of like a flat piece of paper or a flat piece of sheet metal viewed isometrically. Here's a symbol for perpendicularity, and here's one for parallelism. Each one of them is easy to remember because it looks like the thing we're talking about. Ooh, I should get concentricity out of that. That control went away. We don't have that anymore, thank goodness. And in the next 3 slides, you'll notice that the Asme symbols and the ISO symbols, the international standard, are nearly identical in every case. So here are some tolerancing symbols, some dimensioning symbols, some modifying symbols. They're nearly all the same. Your CAD system, like AutoCAD, or SolidWorks if you're using that, has the standards for drawing these symbols already in the system, and so you don't need to worry about size. I'm giving you this page, I don't know why, just in the interest of thoroughness, I guess. In case you need to draw them on a poster sometime, here are the sizes they're supposed to be. When you put geometric controls on your drawing, here's how you do it. You use this box. This is called a feature control frame, and the parts of the feature control frame are always in the same order. First is the symbol. This is the kind of tolerance it is. Then the tolerance value. Here's how big the tolerance zone is. Then a modifier if you're using one. So this M stands for maximum material condition. And then the symbol or symbols for datums, A, B, C, or whatever they are, if you use them. Not all tolerances do. And notice there are no words. This is all just symbols and numbers. It reads kind of like a sentence. So this feature control frame says, control the position of this hole, have the center of the hole lie within a tolerance zone with a diameter of 16 thousandths when the hole is made at maximum material condition. And by the way, when you make a hole that's bigger than maximum material condition, you can get a bigger tolerance zone. You'll get a bonus tolerance. And then at the end, contact surface A first, then contact surface B, finally contact surface C when you're setting up to inspect this thing. Here is this same feature control frame without an M. See, let me back up. So here's a position control at maximum material condition, so smallest hole. When the part has the smallest hole, this is what the tolerance shall be. Here's this same tolerance without an M. What this is saying is control the position of this hole within a tolerance zone that's 16 thousandths in diameter, regardless what size the hole is made. So you don't get a bonus if you don't put an M in there. And finally, it matters where you put these feature control frames. Some geometric tolerances you apply to a surface. For example, these are all on the left are all flatness symbols, and next time we'll look at flatness. Flatness is applied to a surface, so these feature control frames are either pointing at a surface with a leader, or they're attached to an extension line off the surface. These are all surface controls. On the right, we see a bunch of controls applied to features of size. So the control might be part of a hole diameter callout. That's the size dimension, and here's the thing. You might point right at the hole. It might be attached to the slot width. That's the feature of size. Or it might point with a leader at the size dimension. And we'll talk about those more as we go along.